If you've ever played Dark Souls 3, you know that it is a very fast game. Its bosses are challenging, it will punish even the most minor of mistakes. But what if you tried going against that notion? What if you decided to, say, beat the game as a slow, lumbering tank? What if you could use nothing but, say, a gigantic slab of metal shield and the beefiest armor available? What if you decided to ask the question of, can you beat Dark Souls 3 as an immovable wall? So what exactly do I mean by that? What is an immovable wall? In most standard RPGs, there are certain playstyles party members can fall into, and we'll be focusing on the first of the main three, the tank. They're slow, bulky, and able to take hits like an absolute champ. Doesn't sound very fitting for Dark Souls now, does it? That's what I aim to find out with today's challenge run. Is a tank build viable in today's modern Souls climate? As with any run like this, we need to set a few ground rules. I've devised a 3-step plan to become as tanky as possible. Part 1, the immovable part. I must remain above 70% equip load at all times. This threshold causes us to move and roll much slower. As there are no classes that start above 70%, we'll buy some items after killing Iudex to push us over that edge. Part 2, the wall part. I may only wield great shields. There aren't any I can get before defeating Iudex, so I'll use my default shield for that fight. When I reach Firelink Shrine, I have to find the first available great shield and use them from then on. And Part 3, the stats part. I have to hit 30 Vitality by the end of the run. Vitality determines both your natural defenses as well as your equipment load. Adding a minimum requirement will help make sure we stay tanky throughout the entire run. I hope to do the same thing with other RPG archetypes in the future, such as DPS, Mage, and Healer, so make sure to like to let me know that you want that, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next run. And now, without further ado, let's jump straight into it! I want to introduce you to Guardblock. She's our intrepid half-orc exploring Lothric as a knight. She'll be our guide and vessel for this playthrough, so you better be nice to her. She decided to become the best tank possible, and we're here to help her out with that. We kill Iudex with our shield and buy a halberd from the handmaid to get us in that fat roll range. Our first great shield is going to be the Lothric Knight Great Shield, which drops from, well, the Lothric Knights. Incredible name, I know. The earliest place we can get it is in that small building where the SS shard is, so we're going to be farming there from the Tower on the Wall bonfire. After a little bit of grinding, we got the shield. And after we got enough souls to level up, we decided to wield it against Vort. Vort is no different than any other early game boss. Piss easy. Our damage is actually pretty decent for this point of the game, and we can actually ignore most of Vort's attacks with a well-built guard. His only attack we can't fully block is his dash. We get sent careening backwards right into Vort's next charge, which hits us behind our guard. However, despite that, we kill Vort on our very first attempt. On our way to the Curse-Shrouded Ballsack, I fought Holy Knight Hodrick. Normally I wouldn't touch on NPC invaders, but he's going to show the first of our core moveset off, the Shield Bash. This weapon art allows you to charge forward, dealing damage while continuing to block as you attack. We don't even need FP to use it, as we're only sacrificing damage by not having enough blue juice. This helps out tremendously, as it gives us a much less risky option, assuming we don't just get ourselves into a worse position with the charging. Sadly, it doesn't do a ton for the Curse Rod at Greatwood. The Great Wood can severely damage our defenses or just break through them entirely. This led to my first boss death on the run. Twice. The grab attack becomes deceptively difficult to dodge as well, as our roll doesn't have enough distance to consistently dodge without close timing. Despite that, we're able to spin the Great Wood dizzy and claim ourselves one transposing kill. Our next dish on the chopping block, the Crystal Sage. His spell spam could make him a roadblock, but I've got a trick up my sleeve. If you're unaware, there's actually a line of great shields that essentially do what the crest shields do, but as great shields. We have the Moaning Shield for lightning, the Black Iron Great Shield for fire, the Cathedral Knight for dark, and lastly, the Lothar Knight Great Shield for magic. How good is his magic resistance, so you may ask? 83%. We are going to be just fine. We still get sniped in the back a few times, enough to get us scarily close to death due to choking towards the end of the fight, but the Crystal Sage goes down without too much issue on my very first attempt. After reaching the cathedral, we make a quick stop inside of Ashes of Ariandel to pick up the Captain's Ashes. After buying the Millwood Knight set, we make our way to the Deacons of the Deep. If you didn't know, the Deacons actually have an insta-kill move via cursing you, and it makes it kind of a DPS check. As a build not known for its DPS, we will be skipping this fight for now. I did try a few times, but it didn't go over very well. Instead, we make our way to the first Lord of Cinder, the Abyss Watchers. They might not be a DPS check, but they are the first real difficulty spike in the game for a reason. The primary fear is their long and powerful combo strings. Sure, we've survived hard hits before, but we don't usually have to deal with another hard attack right after. The Abyss Watchers change that formula as their large swords leave our stamina bar in shambles before smacking us hard in the face. However, during our attempts we add a new vital element to our moveset. The roll. Using a combination of well-placed rolls and some stamina conservation, we managed to take out the Abyss Watchers and claim our first Lord in just a few attempts. About that roll though, why am I just not bringing it up? We've had access to it this whole time, and it's something that Souls players kind of take for granted, so why is it suddenly such a huge deal? Well, my dear viewer, that's because fat rolling is entirely different from the other two rolling speeds. With the other roll speeds, it really only matters the general direction and timing of your roll. Your placement afterwards doesn't mean too much so long as you aren't dodging right into an attack. Fat rolls don't have this luxury and are made to be used more sparingly. If you mess even a single one up, you can get yourself into an even worse position, which can likely lead to your death. Fat rolling is an art form. It's done with intent and precision, and not a single one is wasted. I'm sorry, I wrote the script yesterday, and I'm rereading it. They give it more as a reposition rather than a speedy jump out of the way. With all that said, I had no plans to really utilize the roll throughout the run, but as the run continued, I learned how to better utilize it. Rolling is a great tool, even when fat rolling. As we progress, enemies will only do more and more damage to our guard, making blocking difficult, so as bosses start to hit harder, we'll be utilizing the fat roll for especially hard-hitting attacks. Running through the catacombs, I take the time to pick up our second shield of the run, the Bone Wheel Shield. Now it can be annoying as those damn skeletons! It has a unique skill called Wheel of Fate, where you spin the wheel in front of you to do some extra damage. We upgrade it and then give it a whirl against Wolnir. I'm not even really going to bother touching on him though. Just a few schmacks on each bracelet is all we need to take out the abyss-fearing behemoth. We use his bonfire to access the Smoldering Lake and take on the old Demon King. Aside from his firing attack being nigh impossible to dodge without turning our back to him, he isn't so bad. Just a couple of attempts later, he falls. With our new shield and every early game boss except Deacons killed, my sights were set on a new, much more difficult goal. Buckle up. It's about to get cold in here. Surprise! Our next challenge is Frida! Why are we fighting Frida so early? Fuck you, that's why! In all seriousness, she's our earliest ticket to our endgame weapon, doors. Yep, we're going for the door shields early. That shouldn't be too bad, right? We just have to get through one of the hardest bosses in the game about 30 to 40 levels earlier than we're intended to. We'll be fine. Right? We are not okay. Frida is fast, hard-hitting, and deals chip damage through our shield. To make matters worse, she gets a friend in Phase 2 that's even more hard-hitting and breaks our shield even faster than she can. This is going to be a tough fight. But on the bright side, at least the Bone Wheel shield fucking sucks! The weapon art is just worse than Shield Bash, and somehow the shield, made to be a weapon, does no more damage than the Lothric Knight Greatshield. That is time wasted I will never get back. Thank you, Dark Souls. After roughly 45 minutes of failed attempts, I decided getting some upgrades would be a much better idea. We start with Dancer of the Boreal Valley, who, honestly, isn't all that bad. I put her off quite a bit longer than I typically do, and we're still doing decent damage despite how late in the game she is. She did kill me once due to managing to break my guard when I was at low health. But all in all, her attacks, although quick and frequent, don't really do enough damage to consistently break my guard. Dancer falls, and we move into the castle to get some upgrades. So now we got a +9 weapon, some extra level ups, and an even more powerful Estus Flask. We're able to kill Frida now, right? Not quite. Another half an hour at our next target, Osiris. Osiris is one of those fights near hell or piss easy. Today was the latter. I barely broke a sweat fighting the oversized conservative American parent, to be honest. An easy sum of souls surely means we're powerful enough to take on Frida. Right? Haha, nope! After an hour and a half, I can see it into something else. Who's next? Gundyr 2? Sure, why the hell not? Why have I not killed Deacons in the Deep yet? Pride. Spite, maybe. Anyways, Gundyr. Gundyr does pure slash damage, with some strike damage for the kicks. We are in full plate armor. I think you can tell how that fight went. Okay! Now we are ready for Frida! Right? Ah! Fine. One more. Dragon Slayer, however, I cannot think of any other bosses we can do pre-Deacons. Is there anything special with the boss I need to touch on? I mean, it does lightning damage. So we take some chip damage to our shield, or maybe the fact that it shield blocks all damage? What about the pilgrim butterflies that float down? No, those all really don't make this a tough fight. Well, okay then. Some more easy souls, I guess? Now please, are we ready for Frida? Yeah, actually, we are. Yeah, after an elapsed time of roughly 5 hours, we finally killed Frida. We can now move the hell on with the game. We move into the Dread Keep, watch the angels float down, and grab our new best friends, the doors. Now, the doors aren't actually your average strength weapon. You can't just R1, or in this case, L1 spam your way to victory, no. This weapon has some strategy to it. I'm primarily talking about a trick I have dubbed Fast Lockout. I found out about it via an anonymous user's comment on the Fexter Life Wiki, and it's very simple to pull off. When you use the skill Lockout, you normally have this long animation of you pulling the doors closed where the shield isn't considered active. The L1, or parent attack, has a much faster closing animation and the active shield frames start much sooner. And if you hold L2 during the attack animation, you will immediately snap to the lockout's closed stance once the L1 attack is done. You can now transition into a lockout R1 for a long amount of time guarding. The best part? In the R1 attack, you won't stop your attack even when out of stamina. Fast lockout is one of the best things I could have learned going into this challenge. It is likely the biggest addition we will add to our moveset. Did somebody order a pancake Catholic style? That's right! Fuck you, Deacons! This shield rocks! I am now the true immovable wall! The Lothric shield has served us well, but it's garbage compared to this. However, there is one issue. The fire, our shield isn't very good against fire, as you'd expect from wooden doors. In all reality, though, despite the massive amount of fire in this game, that cleric weakness doesn't even do much. There's never a high enough amount of fire damage at once to make a massive difference. The shield doesn't even matter, however, for the next boss. The Ancient Wyvern. Yeah, we skipped all the way to the Ancient Wyvern. My original goal was to fight it normally, but look at that damage, it's abysmal. Chat and I decided from here on out that fists are going to be allowed in all runs, just as a general rule. With said fists, we cave in the Ancient Wyvern's skull and move the hell on. We run through our tracking peak, searching for the man who will give us our last major upgrade, Havel. After a duel for the ages, we slay him and claim his armor back at Fahrenkeep. We can't actually wear the full set yet, so we wear what we can without going overloaded, and move on to the Nameless King, our next target. Nameless is now the second boss to give me some actual trouble, actually. The first phase has some extremely damaging attacks that will either smash through my guard or just straight up pierce through it. I lost a lot of health during this phase on every single attempt, but never died to it, surprisingly. The second phase, however, is where shit gets real. Take the issue we've had with bosses like the Abyss Watchers, where there are multi-hit combos with high stamina damage and torque it to the max. That's Nameless Phase 2. He also has a grab that looks very similar to like 3 other attacks, which is just lovely. Nameless was tough, but didn't feel insurmountable like Frida was. He was a stone, whereas Frida was a fucking boulder. So, now that we've talked about Nameless, where's the kill? Where's the rest of the video, Rachel? It's gone. I had the footage previously, but then YouTube decided to be a piece of shit! Yeah, YouTube doesn't save your VODs past 12 hours. They don't actually tell you this. And as such, I streamed for 14.5 hours, not knowing I would lose so much time to this. I wasn't recording as it was causing some performance issues when used alongside streaming, so I lost about half of the boss fights. Luckily, we had a volunteer step forward to save the day. Ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, I would like to introduce you all to Guard Block II. She'll be taking Guard Block's place now that her mother was sent to the Shadow Realm. In all seriousness, I had to run through the entire game again to get new footage for the second half of the run. But on the bright side, on the way there, I did get to try out DS3's Great Clip for the first time on my way back, the Nameless King. Speaking of that bastard... Next up, we decided to bite the bullet and do the boss I've been worried about, Yorm. By this point, we have enough vitality to wear full Havels without going overloaded, assuming we wear the ring of the same name. So we have a much needed defensive boost, especially towards fire. Yorm luckily isn't actually a huge bother, however. We obviously can't use the Storm Ruler, nor can we even reach his head, but that's okay! It's just 2 extremely tanky titans duking out in a dilapidated throne room. If we hit his hands, we even do a good bit of extra damage, so I would try to hit his hands whenever he finished certain combos. The fight on both runs took a while, but we beat him on our very first try both times. If it wasn't very obvious, we have gotten much more powerful since we got the door. Maybe there's a reason they get given to you so late in the game. Next up, Pontiff. Man doesn't even stand a chance. Dude could barely get an attack off before hitting phase 2, and his clones got almost immediately killed. Despite his fire, he can't even really touch us for anything more than negligible paper cuts most of the time. Like his massive explosion can't even deal more than 1/4 of our health. I'm starting to think we may be a bit more powerful than I thought we'd be. Anyways, we make our way to Anal Rodeo after that and take on Aldrich, Slug of the Deep, and Devourer of Pussy. We are now teetering on a maxed out Estus Flask. We have more health and defense than we could realistically ever need. Aldrich could never be an issue, though I mean on the original run he did get off a good hit with one of his arrow attacks. But even then, if you see that coming, you don't get badly scratched up, so it's perfectly fine. We murder the slug with no issues, and I think you're starting to see why the entire second half of the run was only 2.5 hours. The archives are long, but just like everywhere else, the run to the boss isn't really all that worth talking about. I mean, I did do this cool little trick to skip Awakening the Golden Wing Knights when I went for the last Estus Shard. I mean, this cool double hit on the Kamui and Albert was kind of nice. But there just ain't that much to say, you know? Hell, even Lothric and Lorien can't do a whole lot to me. I mean, they can catch some combos that do decent damage, but they never exactly go on for too long, so we can just run away, heal back up, and return with a new stamina bar to spam some fast lockouts with. Maybe the charged shockwave Lorien uses could be an issue since it's tight timing to fat roll through, but even then we're just too powerful for them. We chunked their health bar into oblivion and barely even had to bother learning how to dodge or evade. This is a late game boss, and we beat them by basically L1 spamming and using some well-timed fast lockouts. Wow! I mean, maybe we just need something with some more challenge to it. We need the Ringed City. Oh, yeah, this is editing Rachel here, by the way. I completely forgot to get footage of me killing the Champions Gravetender and Great Wolf on the second playthrough. So, here, I killed them. You're welcome. I'm such a benevolent ruler. Ah, the Ringed City. After taking a pit stop here a few hours ago, we're back to finish the job. Before we even reach the city though, we have some gatekeepers we need to take care of. The last two demons want to fight a boulder holding two doors. They, to be fair, had ample reason to be confident, as they're probably the most fire-related boss in the game. In reality though, we have tons of opportunities for damage in between combos, and the prince is staggered way more easily than you'd think. We even have 5 S's remaining when we kill the demon princes. Though, to be fair, even if we can't show it, the princes put up more of a fight on the original run. The fire attacks, of course, go through our shield like fucking butter, and a lot of attacks will straight up hit around our shield as well. The attack with the prince will fly up its straight lob on the ground was tough to dodge, and I don't even think I ever left it unscathed. To make matters worse, for the prince though, we were doing great damage against the boss that's known for being a fucking bullet sponge. For the love of Christ, we are using doors! We should not be shredding bosses right now! We run through the city, now that we've gained passage, not really bothering to fight anything as I cannot really be bothered right now to try my hand against Ring Knights or the Herald Legion. I just want Midir, and I want him now. He's one of my favorite bosses ever in FromSoft history, probably being just under my top 3, but had to really wager a guess, so I was excited for the challenge. To be fair, I did kinda get that. It was an endurance fight to be sure, as the fight takes a while even on a casual run, with the whole like 15,000 health and all. We naturally also couldn't really block anything either, as it's a massive fucking dragon. However, there are 2 real fatal flaws in this fight. For one, this is one of the fights I've co-oped the most on. If you're unaware, most of my playtime is spent in co-op. And as such, I know to dodge or even just walk around most of his attacks, as his attacks don't tend to stretch super far, save for charges, fire breaths, and lasers. And as for the other flaw... Ah, yoink. Yeah, so the whole being able to use my fist thing led to me learning that the visceral is not a multiplication of your damage, it's an addition. As chat had let me use fist early on, I wanted a visceral Midir as a funny moment, before realizing it was not just a haha funny and I actually just chunked Midir with my bare fucking hands. Yeah, that's fun. Midir did not last long after that on either attempt, although he did play a game of Make Rachel Miss Every Attack on the rerun. Midir falls, and we move on to the final trio of bosses. Actually, I'll just say duo. Yeah, Half-Light's fucking easy. That's coming from someone who can't PvP to save her life. Half-Light cannot do jack shit to a fucking wall in front of him, so he falls with literally next to no issues whatsoever. Gale was my last hope for a true challenge. Someone who could stand up to my wall and break it the fuck down. Alas, that wasn't really the case. It was challenging, no doubt, but timing fast lockouts properly can lead to avoiding entire combo strings during all 3 phases. That, combined with making sure I dodge any grabs or particularly heavy hits, led to me killing Gale on the first try, on the original run at least. On the rerun I ended up choking at the end and had to redo basically the entire fight. Regardless, there goes all of my hopes for a real challenge run, I guess. Soul of Cinder is our final boss on this list. Even if Gale and Midir are harder, I always like to save Soul of Cinder for last. It's more thematic that way. Soul has 3 attacks that have some oomph to them. His grab attack, which goes through our guard, the combo, which fully depletes our stamina if we so much as try to block it, and the lightning spam attack, it just straight up dodges our guard. One particular thing to note, however, is that all of that's in Phase 2. In Phase 1, all I need to do was spam fast lockout and keep my guard up, and he couldn't really do any lasting damage. I beat Solar Cinder on the first try in the rerun, but Soul actually managed to kill me twice in the original, which was the first time I had died since Nameless King. They were fairly stupid deaths, to be fair, with the first being due to thinking I could get away with tanking the combo, and the second being due to an unlucky grab when I was trying to heal. I was going to be fighting both fights regardless, and with that, the run is over. So, do I think that I proved that defense is viable in Dark Souls? Oh my god, yes! We beat the toughest fights relatively easily, and by the end of the run we were absolutely impenetrable, even to stuff like fire damage. I can only imagine what might have happened if I skipped Green Blossoms to stock up on bug pellets for even more damage negation. I do wish there was more of a challenge, however, as I believe going into this run this should be the hardest of the RPG Archetype series, and although it's likely true, it's a lot easier than I thought regardless. The only major stumbling block was Frida, and even though she was a massive stumbling block, the power spike afterwards was fully worth it. Honestly, I would highly recommend trying this build out for yourself, although I would recommend using an actual weapon until you get the doors. I'd used the Great Club until I got it, and it was a blast. The next run is going to be the Deep Addict, also known as the DPS archetype. As of writing the script, I'm holding a poll to see which two-handed weapon class you guys want me to use, and I'll put the winner up on screen. Actually, script writing Rachel, I'm going to say it! We've got Great Swords! We're going to be using Great Swords, Curved Great Swords, and Ultra Great Swords. Regardless, I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, here's a reminder to leave a like on the video as it lets me know you enjoyed it. If you're new, make sure to drop a subscription, as I stream on this channel 4 days a week. And if you're not new, why not join all these lovely people as channel members? You get stuff such as emotes to use in chat, early video updates, you get to watch my videos early, you get private live streams, and I'll even buy a small game of your choice to play on stream if you buy the highest tier. About 2 months ago, we bought Fight Crab for Toyu, our first ever Aether Castellan. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Rachel, you've been whoever the hell you are, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!